The moment my eyes close, I'm violently pulled into that same sinister room. A place that's hauntingly familiar, yet always shifting. Just as the new horror begins to unfold before me, I jolt awake, but the dread remains, clawing at me, waiting for the next time I dare to shut my eyes. Every time my eyelids flutter shut, I'm yanked into that same eerie room, a place that's both familiar and ever-changing. Just as I start to make sense of the new horror before me, I wake up, but the dread lingers, gnawing at me until I close my eyes again. It all started a few weeks ago, right after I moved into my new apartment. At first, I thought it was just my mind playing tricks on me, One of those weird phases where stress makes your brain do backflips. But no, this was different. This was real. The first time it happened, I was just trying to catch a quick nap after a long day of unpacking. As soon as I closed my eyes, I felt this jolt, like my consciousness was being tugged through a dark tunnel. Suddenly, I was standing in this room. It was narrow, the walls so close I could touch both sides if I stretched out my arms. The wallpaper was old, peeling at the edges, covered in these faded floral patterns that made my skin crawl. There was a single lamp hanging from the ceiling, casting this dim, flickering light that barely pushed back the darkness. I remember thinking, okay, this is just a dream. You'll wake up in a second. But then I noticed the details. The way the air smelled musty, like no one had opened a window in decades, and the cold seeping through my clothes, chilling me to the bone. That's when I saw it. A rocking chair in the corner, moving ever so slightly, as if someone had just gotten up. I tried to move, to walk towards the chair, but my feet felt glued to the floor. And then, just as I was about to scream, I opened my eyes and I was back in my bed, my heart pounding like I'd just run a marathon. I told myself it was just a nightmare, but deep down, I knew it wasn't. The next time it happened, the room was different. The rocking chair was gone, replaced by an old, ornate mirror propped up against the wall. I walked towards it, my reflection shimmering in the dim light. But as I got closer, I realized something was off. The reflection wasn't me. It was a woman, her face gaunt and pale, her eyes wide with terror. She started screaming, and I felt this icy grip on my shoulder. I spun around, but there was no one there. When I looked back at the mirror, it was just me again, my own terrified face staring back.
I woke up in a cold sweat, my hands shaking. I tried to tell myself it was just my imagination, but I knew better. This was real. This was happening. Each time I closed my eyes after that, I ended up in that room, and each time something was different. Sometimes it was small, like a new crack in the wall or a different pattern on the wallpaper. Other times it was bigger, like the time I found a doll sitting on a tiny chair in the middle of the room. Its eyes followed me as I moved, and when I picked it up, it whispered my name. I started dreading sleep. I'd lie in bed, staring at the ceiling, terrified of what I'd see when I closed my eyes. But no matter how hard I tried to stay awake, I always ended up back in that room. I decided to do some research, thinking maybe I could find some answers. I spent hours at the library digging through old books on dreams and the paranormal. I even talked to a few experts, but no one could give me a straight answer. Some said it was sleep paralysis. Others suggested it might be a glimpse into another dimension. None of it made me feel any better. Last night was the worst. I was in the room again, but this time it was different. The walls were closer, the air thicker. There was a door at the end of the room, one I'd never seen before. It was slightly ajar, and I could hear this soft, rhythmic creaking like a swing moving back and forth. I knew I shouldn't, but I couldn't stop myself. I walked towards the door and pushed it open.
On the other side was a nursery, the kind you'd see in an old abandoned house. There was a crib in the corner, a mobile hanging above it, the little animals spinning slowly in the air. And in the middle of the room, there was a swing, moving back and forth on its own. I felt this overwhelming sense of dread, like I was standing on the edge of a cliff, about to fall. And then I heard it, a whisper, so soft I almost missed it. "Mama." My blood ran cold. I turned around, ready to run, but the door was gone. The walls had closed in, and I was trapped. I could feel something breathing down my neck, its cold breath sending shivers down my spine. I woke up screaming, my voice raw with terror. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. It felt like something was sitting on my chest, pinning me down. I tried to open my eyes, but they were glued shut. I could hear that whisper again, louder this time. "Mama!" And then, just like that, it was gone. I opened my eyes, and I was back in my bed, the morning sun streaming through the curtains. But I know it's not over. I can feel it. Every time I close my eyes, I'm back in that room. And each time, it gets a little harder to wake up. I don't know what it wants or why it's happening to me. All I know is that I'm terrified. And I don't think I'll ever be able to close my eyes again without seeing that room, without feeling that cold breath on my neck, without hearing that whisper in the dark. I've tried everything to stay awake. Coffee, energy drinks, even those weird tips you find online. But no matter what I do, I always end up back in that room. It's like it's calling to me, pulling me in. And each time, it feels more real, more terrifying. I've started keeping a journal, writing down every detail I can remember. Maybe if I can find a pattern, I can figure out how to stop it. But so far, nothing makes sense. The room changes, the objects move, but the fear is always the same. I've thought about talking to a therapist, but how do you explain something like this without sounding crazy? Every time I close my eyes, I'm trapped in a nightmare room that changes every time I visit. Yeah, right. They'd lock me up in a heartbeat. But I can't keep living like this. I'm exhausted, terrified, and I don't know what to do. I feel like I'm losing my mind, like I'm being pulled into some dark, twisted world that I can't escape. I just want it to stop. I want to close my eyes and see darkness, not that room, not those horrors. I want to sleep without fear, without the constant dread of what I'll see next. But for now, I'm trapped. Trapped in a cycle of fear and exhaustion with no end in sight. And the worst part? I don't know if I'll ever be able to escape. If it gave you chills, hit that like button, subscribe so you don't get lost between worlds, and write in the comments. Are you sure you woke up in your own world? See you in the next story.